Honourable Member for Huron-Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise here today. And I would like to say I'll be sharing my time with the member from Sarnia-Lambton. I would start off by saying I enjoy listening to the debate in the House of Commons, and I like to hear the different point of views. But I would like to point out one observation I've made over the last 5.5, nearly 6 years. And the one thing that you will find if you're here this long is you hear everything. You've heard it at least twice or three times. And I think back to 2009, excuse me, at the height of the economic downturn, and the NDP used to sit down here, at least some of the members did, and I could remember the member from Halifax at the time. We were debating the bill, and we were talking about the home renovation tax credit. And the NDP were totally against it, at least at that point in time in the debate, and you can check the blues of the debate on that day. And I remember the NDP members' comments about the home renovation tax credit. You're just giving them a bunch of money to build a bunch of decking for homes. But that program and that tax credit was one of the single largest reasons why we came through the downturn as well as we did. And I've heard other comments in here today about the size of the bill or what's in the bill. And I can think back to at least last year or the year before, and we were talking about environmental screenings and, you know, do you need to do an environmental screening in a national park if you're installing a cedar bench, which is what we used to have to do. And the opposition were fighting tooth and nail to keep that in. Well, the world hasn't come to the end, and the environment is probably much the better, and municipalities have more money, and certainly parks and civil servants have a lot more time to do more important work than do environmental screenings on cedar benches. So my only comment to the opposition would be don't get so wound up. Things are going in the right direction, and I'll get into the direction that this country's taking in a few moments. Where is Canada? Where is Canada relative to G7 nations? Where are they? Debt to GDP, for example, deficit to GDP, job growth, employment insurance, you know, some of the key drivers, key indicators of an economy's health. Well, if you're looking at debt to GDP, obviously in the G7 countries, Canada is by far and away the best. Deficit to GDP, we're absolutely the best. Near balance this year, surplus next year. Really no other country in the G7 can even come close to that. In fact, most of them are in structural deficit positions at this point in time. Employment and records, even though, and I'm not a partisan person, I can assure you of that, but the opposition has a failure to recognize the fact that there's been 1 million new jobs created over 1 million new jobs since July of 2009. Those are the facts. They're the indisputable facts. And in fact, it's the leadership of this government and the finance minister and the prime minister and the member of caucus that we have here that has led us to this point. Don't forget the economic downturn in 2007, 8, and 9. Don't forget the budget that was delivered in 2009 that really saved the day, in my opinion, for this country. So we need to focus on that. Now, what have we done? People say, well, you know, you rode the U.S.'s coattails out of the recovery. Well, that's a fact that is not true because we came out of it much sooner than them in much better condition. What did we do? Well, long before I came into this House, we lowered taxes for businesses. We lowered taxes for families. We lowered taxes for individuals. And what that allowed the economy to do was to keep more of their own money, because we know $1 in business's hand or $1 in an individual or family's hand is far more productive than it is going through the inner workings of government. So we've done that. We have the lowest corporate tax rate of really any other developed country. We've expanded trade. Now, you can't point to one trade deal that saved the day, but what I'm going to tell you is the 43 countries that we have, and again, they're not all fully implemented, but the ones that we have fully implemented and the ones that will, take, for example, Canada, Korea, okay? The summation of these will be felt for decades. The benefit will be decades. long after I'm out of this house, the impacts and the benefits will still be felt. Take, for example, I live in a rural riding. The tariffs on pork products, the tariffs on beef products, the tariffs on identity-protected soybeans, Azuki beans, navy beans, white beans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The tariffs on identity-protected soybeans, the tariffs on Azuki beans, the tariffs on white beans, navy beans are all over 400%. The tariffs on pork products are over 30 or 40%. The tariffs on beef products are in that same range. What has happened is the U.S. and European Union have signed agreements that are being implemented now, being phased in, and what's happened? Our trade with Korea has dropped 30%. That's not good. So immediately, some of these tariffs come right off, and over the next number of years, the tariffs are reduced. This is going to help our economy. This isn't creating fake economies through quantitative easing. This isn't called fake economies by injecting money into frivolous things. This is making investments in reducing tariffs and letting business do what it does best, which is create jobs and economic prosperity. What else have we done? We've invested in innovation. And the member from Cambridge is here today. And at the time I first was in, he was the Minister for FedDev and Science and Technology. Look what took place. Look what took place in Southern Ontario. There were investments from one end of the province to the other that made a difference. Investments in universities from coast to coast. The universities still are so appreciative of those investments because it makes them more competitive. It makes them more attractive for international students to know that there's world-class campuses right here in this country. Take a look, the member beside me, the member from Brantford, okay? He's sitting right here, okay? Wilfrid Laurier University, there's a campus there. Look at what that has done to the downtown of Brantford. I used to work in Brantford. Look what it's done for the downtown of Brantford. We've invested in the auto sector, the Auto Innovation Fund. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested in increased productivity, capacity, and performance in auto assembly plants here in this country, okay? In spite of my good friend Ken Lowenza, okay? Border perimeter agreements with the United States. This is another one. This, years and years and years from now, when we look back at how do we get to such a favorable position with the world, this will be another one. Streamlining rules and regulations that cause burden, red tape, and encumbrances on business are being improved, streamlined to allow products to cross our border each and every day, lower cost, less labor, and less burden. And just wait till that bridge is built in Windsor. That will make a big difference, as I know the Speaker will attest to. We've reduced red tape. I've already announced in my speech some of the initiatives that we've done to reduce red tape, but we're continuing. We're continuing on. I'll give you an example. Just in the budget this year alone, we're talking about source payroll deductions, Canada pension and employment insurance deductions that come off right at source. Well, you have to employ somebody, or you have to hire somebody, or you have to take time out of your day to do these deductions to take the payroll off. Well, we've raised those limits. We've raised those thresholds so that you don't have to send in your CPP and EI remittance, say, for example, every 2 weeks. Now you can go to every month. Oh, Mr. Speaker, I thought I had a lot longer than this. I had another point that I wanted to talk about, and it's what a decade will do. Take a look at what a decade in Ontario has done to the Ontario economy. An Ontario Liberal government has absolutely destroyed the economy in Ontario. That's the truth. What has a Conservative government in Canada done the last 8 years? We have set this country up for economic success and prosperity, I'm guessing for probably 40 or 50 years. It's the clearest example I can give you. It's why I got into politics, and I'm sure it's why most of my colleagues here have got into politics, and I'm sure 40 years from now, our grandchildren will have a great job because of what this government has done.
Questions and comments? Question et commentaires. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges.
What will a decade do? And if we look, the healthcare accord has expired after 10 years with nothing in its place, and this member's constituents are asking questions about this. Mary Strauss of Walton, one of his constituents, is asking with the absence of a healthcare accord, she's concerned that there's increased privatization, and she can't receive an answer from this member because she says he toes the party line. So I'm asking for her, in her place, in this House, the House of Commons, what will they do about healthcare? And will our children be better off 10 years down the road without a healthcare accord that has guaranteed funding to healthcare in the past 10 years?
The honourable member for Huron-Bruce.
Thanks very much. I know Mary, and not surprisingly, Mary is a member of the retired CAW union, okay? So we'll take that in context for, I know she's a constituent. I'm telling you her background. I talk to Mary all the time by email, and I can assure you if she has any questions on health, she can come into my office anytime. But let me tell you what we've done. We've increased health care transfers every year, 6% per year. Look it up. You'll be very interested to read about it. I'll also tell you there was hardly a comment from the provinces about the funding because why? What do they want? Stable funding that applies to the principles of the Canada Health Act, the 5 principles. It's pretty straightforward. I'm not surprised, but I'll tell you one thing you could do. You could tell people like Ken Lewent.
Order. The member from Huron-Bruce must address his comments to the chair, not to other members. I don't know if he wants to complete his answer. Time to complete your answer.
Right. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. What I was going to say, you could talk to people like Ken Lowenza and tell them to stop wasting money on organizations like Lead Now and actually protect the union workers. I'm going to tell you a story. I have gone to bat for the CAWs in my riding, and I've gone to Kitchener with them, fighting for them for WSIB. Guess where national members like Ken Lowenza are? They said, hire a lawyer. That's what they said.
Question et commentaires. Questions and comments. L'honorable.
The honourable member for Bourassa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the question of the member. In his speech, he gave us a history of 40 or 50 years that he talked about, whereas this is a budget bill that was tabled. I'd like to hear him talk about that specifically. What does he find in that budget that will help? I've already put the question to the Minister of Finance. What is in this that will help individuals in the middle class, immigrants, newly arrived immigrants in Canada? Does he agree that we find ourselves facing this omnibus bill once again, which, how can I put this? It's a catch-all. It has everything in it, whether it's something involving the United States or another issue. Is he really comfortable with such an omnibus bill that is really hiding the importance of the economic plans that we need to have in Canada?
Thank you very much. And I will answer the member's question. One of them is skilled trades. We have a huge skilled trades deficit in this country and in Ontario, and I would suggest the Ontario Liberal government is at the root of that problem. But we have $100 million in this BIA that the opposition will vote against that will help young men and women who want to get into the trades to have interest-free loans. Interest-free loans. Now, he said in the budget, so I'll give you one item from the budget, Mr. Speaker, rural broadband, okay? I'm from a rural riding. In order for rural businesses to conduct their business in the year 2014 and beyond, we need rural broadband. So there's 2 examples in about 15 seconds. I could go on for 45 minutes. I don't think you're going to let me do it.
The member is correct. Resume.